Hey, what's up, VC? It's Steve again, Harmless Rebel, and this is my response to Chad's first contest. He asked if we show him some non-hard rock and metal music just to open him up to a few new, open him up to some new music. So this is some stuff I put together. And the background is Among the Living from Anthrax. Let's go ahead and get started. So the first record that I pulled is Rev from Reverend Horton Heat. Reverend Horton Heat's a killer rockabilly, psychobilly band. I actually recommend any of his records or any of the band's records. I just chose this one because this is their most recent release, and this is the easiest one to get a hold of. Some of their records are kind of hard to find. There are represses of all of them now, I think. Don't quote me on that, but I think all of them have been repressed. Like I said, just really killer psychobilly, rockabilly. Jim Heath, the singer and guitarist, is amazing. If you like any type of rockabilly guitar, classic 50s guitar, anything like Dickie Dale, that surf sound, he kind of mixes all that together. And Reverend Horton Heat is just an amazing band. So again, I highly recommend anything from Reverend Horton Heat. But like I said, Rev is the most recent album. It was put out on Victory Records earlier this year. So next up, most metal guys. At least metal guys that I associate with or that I speak with on a regular basis also love prog, progressive rock. I don't think I've ever seen you show any progressive rock, Chad, but still, if you're not familiar, here's a couple good ones to start with. This particular band I think is the best progressive rock band. Some would argue it's Genesis, and I get that argument, I understand it, but for me it's Yes. And I actually chose this particular album for a reason. This is classic Yes, and it's just that. This is 7 of their biggest songs. I think this is the most accessible. It's not really a greatest hits, but it kind of is. But it'll give you a really good introduction of the first 5. Let's see. Yeah, this will give you a good overview of the first 4 or 5 years of the band and some of their best albums. So this would be one that I would highly recommend that you check out. And if you do like this, then go ahead and move into the rest of their catalog. The cool thing about progressive rock, though, and I think part of the reason a lot of metal guys like it is a lot of really good metal bands are real technical, and they like to use the more progressive tunings, the time signatures. A lot of the drumming is very technical, and that's all aspects that come from progressive rock. So, and then another one, also prog, that I would recommend is the band Marillion. A lot of people would recommend one of their other albums, would recommend their third album is kind of your entry. I always found Script for a Jester's Tear to be their best, and this is really the reason that I like Marillion. This is actually the French pressing, I believe. Oh, I'm sorry, the UK pressing. But I mean, it's not difficult to find the American pressings of any of the first 4 or 5 Marillion albums. So again, another progressive rock band. It's a little different sound than Yes, but they're both great bands. Next up, this is a little bit of punk, and I know you've shown some punk here and there. This is one I'm pretty sure you've never heard of, though. This is a band called Roof Rex. And they're from Northern Ireland. This album is from '85, but they were pretty much already done by this point. This is just kind of a late release. They were in the same scene as Stiff Little Fingers, as well as the Undertones. The big difference between them and what makes them a better band than all of them is well, before I get to that, Undertones kind of played the whole teenage, what it's like to be a teenager, that style of punk music, more Ramones type topics, stuff like that. Then you had Stiff Little Fingers, who were a little bit more political. However, they were partisan. The big thing with Roof Rex is they wouldn't choose sides. They basically, their point was that the Catholics and the Protestants were all wrong in Ireland. They didn't take a side. They spoke out against all of them, and because of that, you've never heard of them. None of the record companies would touch them because they wouldn't choose a side. They were nonpartisan, which pissed a lot of people off, especially in the industry. However, this is an amazing album. It's very sad that this was never. I mean, honestly, this band should have been bigger than Stiff Little Fingers. It should have been bigger than The Clash, because The Clash talked about those political topics, but The Clash wasn't involved in any of that. It's really easy to talk about politics when you're protected by money and in a safe place. These guys were right in the middle of it in Northern Ireland. They had no money. They were still speaking out against both governments. I mean, just really the spirit of punk. So, highly recommend Roof Rex. Killer band. The next one, I pulled a hip-hop album. I don't listen to a lot of hip-hop anymore. Where I grew up in Phoenix, honestly, until probably my junior year of high school, that's all I heard. Just where I lived and where I grew up, that was the music. There was nothing else. So I grew up with a lot of that West Coast hip-hop. And when my sophomore, junior year, when I got into music, started playing drums, got introduced to heavy metal and hard rock again, and at that point, that's all I listened to for a number of years. Then I went back into the Navy and started DJing, and I was responsible for a hip hop night. So I ended up having to build my collection again. Got up to about I don't know, probably 300 or 400 records and 1,000 CDs or so of just hip hop. And then once I stopped DJing, I just kind of lost interest again. Most of the popular hip hop, especially now, is garbage. There was a real good period from about 85 to 96. I think that's kind of the golden era of hip hop, in my opinion. And the few, I've probably got maybe 15 or 20 hip-hop albums right now, but they're all like classic albums, and this is one that I would always recommend to anybody, is Illmatic from Nas. This is just an amazing album. This is the original UK pressing. Just a killer album. I'm sure you've heard of Nas. He's all over the place. I mean, he's been in movies. He's had, I don't know, a dozen albums now, but none are as good as this. And I don't think he's ever put out another comparable album. His third and fourth albums had some really nice stuff on them, but this is really where it's at. So Illmatic from Nas, again, this is another one that I would recommend checking out. And then last but not least is probably the best album of the year, in my opinion, no matter the genre. This is Benji from Sun Kil Moon. This is one of the most personal albums I have ever heard. It's Mark Kozelek, the singer, and pretty much the man who is Sun Kil Moon, writes these. His music's really personal. He's an amazing storyteller. You can feel the emotion and the anguish in his music, and it really is just amazing. It's kind of a mix. I mean, they call it all kind of weird stuff. They call it like sadcore and slowcore. It's basically alt folk, alternative folk or indie folk. It's more like it's not your traditional folk music. This is more modern folk, I guess is a good way of putting it. But man, this album, it blew me away. I mean, the way this guy tells stories, and he doesn't follow traditional He doesn't follow the traditional song structure. You know, the whole song is a story. It's not a little piece of a story, then a chorus, and then a little piece of a story, and then a chorus, and then a third piece, and the song's over. It's one long, intricate story, and man, I tell you what, again, I haven't heard another album that comes close to this one this year. It's that good. So again, Sun Kil Moon from Benji. And honestly, any of the Sun Kil Moon albums are good. They're impossible to find though. This one is the most widely released so far. The first pressing was 3,000 albums. The second pressing, I don't know if it's started yet, but that's going to be, I'm sorry, not even 3,000, 9, 18, 2,700 albums for the first pressing, because it's 900 of each color. And then the second pressing will be the same thing. So his previous albums, though, or the band's previous albums, he's only released like 1,000 of each record, so those are really hard to find. I think this one's the best anyway, but regardless, that's it, Chad. That's my recommendation. Actually, you know what? Before I forget, I'll recommend 2 more to you. I know you've been dabbling in country a little bit with the David Allan Coe stuff. I have these digital. I don't have them on vinyl yet, but I would also recommend Nick 13. He is the lead singer of Tiger Army, the Psychobilly band, but he also does traditional outlaw country, and it's amazing. So Nick 13, and then Sturgill Simpson. Sturgill Simpson, if you like the David Allan Coe, or if you like Hank Williams Jr., that old rebel country, Merle Haggard, Waylon Jennings, if you like any of that, you're going to love Sturgill Simpson, so I'd recommend him as well. And you can get his 2 most recent albums from his Bandcamp website for relatively cheap. He's got his first album's a little bit harder to find. It's not printed anymore, but you can find that one as well too. So again, Nick 13 and Sturgill Simpson. That's my recommendations, man. I hope you check these albums out. Tell me what you think. Take care, buddy.